Hello Flosstube and welcome back. I'm Ros Clark, this is Ros Clark Craft, this is my home here on YouTube. You can also find me as Ros Clark Craft on Instagram, on Etsy and on Patreon. So hello, it's been a while. You can see I'm in a different place and I'm quite excited by this. I am in my sewing room, which because my house is very tiny, is not in my house, it is in my garden. This is an old shepherd's hut that I've had about 10 years maybe. Initially it was an office when I moved home and I just, you know, my entire house was full of my books and I'm like, I really need another room. And I had a legacy from my grandparents and so that bought this. There are very strict planning permission rules where I live. So if you're in a converted, I mean they call it a barn conversion. Yeah, mine is smaller than any barn you've ever seen, but nonetheless if you're in a conversion you can't get planning permission to extend, but what you can do is put a non-permanent thing in your garden. So technically this is a caravan, it's on wheels, it could be towed away at any time. It would be quite a job to do that, but it means I have an extra space in my garden. It's not huge and it very quickly gets full. I've done quite a lot of decluttering in the last month or so and I've already filled one wheelie bin full of stuff out of here. There is going to need to be more. I found a lot of fabric, like a lot. Like I could make enough clothes for the next 5 years without really shopping. Obviously that hasn't stopped me buying any more fabric, but you know. Anyway, what it does mean is that I've got a vaguely clear surface on the table in here, and I have got a new filming gadget thing, which I'm very excited about. It's called a visualizer, and I do vaguely remember hearing about them in the pandemic. Teachers, I think, were quite keen on using them when they were having to teach over Zoom, because one of the things it's really good at, obviously it's filming me face to face, and it has a built-in microphone and everything. But it's very easy and quick, and I'll show you later. There we go. This side, there we go, that's my vest. And then let's try and observe some propriety. Let's not. Anyway, it's very good at transitioning to film overhead without having to faff around with getting your camera attached to things. And I've tried all sorts of setups to try and do the overhead filming. And I can do it, but this is way easier. So I'm excited about this. The lady who was the tutor on my Italy holiday had one. Hers is a bit more bells and whistles than mine, but I was like, oh, that actually is really good. One of the other things it does, it's really good for magnifying the work. So when she was showing us how to do things, she would have the camera on her as she was stitching, but also you could then look at her laptop screen and see it magnified really well. So you can see it does the sort of auto focus there and then. Okay, so what I've done, I hope this is going to be alright, I've just moved my iPad. So you have to attach your visualizer to your computer or your iPad or your phone or whatever, and so I can see myself on the screen on that, and I've just moved it so that hopefully it's in a better place, that I'm not looking down here all the time to check where I am, but I'm looking vaguely in the direction of the camera. Okay, something like that. Okay, so what have I got to tell you? Well, it's been a while, hasn't it? I think the last time I did a Flosstube was before I went to Italy, which means it was in April, and we are now at the last weekend of May. So yeah, that's gone. If you saw my Instagram story earlier this week, last week, you'll have an idea of why. I've not been doing great, and one of the things that's meant is I've not really been doing much stitching. I've done a little bit of cross stitching, which I will show you. I have done some other making, which I'm also going to show you, some of which I realise I've left in the house, so I will pause it and go and get that when I get to that point. I've also sort of acquired a little bit of haul, but also brought various things together. I've got some samples that I'm going to show you of various kinds of silk thread that I've stitched up on the same fabric, so that hopefully you can get a sense of how they work and how they look. And I was sort of prompted to do that because we were using silk thread on the embroidery holiday, and I thought, oh, this would be interesting to see how this cross stitches. It's from a UK company that I had not previously heard of, so I don't know whether you have or not, but I've also got various stranded silks and other bits and pieces, which I seem to have left all of that behind. But I'm going to do a little bit on that. So it'll be cross stitching, it'll be silk threads, embroidery, other crafts, and then right at the end I'm just going to give you a little heads up about what's coming up on my Patreon for June. So let's start with the cross stitching. So I think I showed you this, but oh look, I am reversed on the screen in front of me, which I'm finding a challenge. I think I won't be reversed by the time you see it. There we go, look, there we go, a girl who loves dragons. Let's put it there we go, further away, and then it's easier to get it on the screen. So this is what I was sent by Lizzie, this Mrs. Fisher's Stitches, in our Ink Circles round robin swap. It is the absolute perfect project bag for the project that she has kitted up and that we are all stitching, which is this. Anyway, you can tell one of these is going to be the thumbnail, isn't it? It's a bit shiny, and I also can't work out which way to do it. There we go, that way. Anyway, so this is Elemental Dragons Water, and you can see it's charted. You can see if I hold it in the right place, it's charted as a monochrome stitch, but Lizzie has chosen, and I think brilliantly, to do it not monochrome. She's divided the pattern into the dragons, which is stitched in one colour, and then the sort of background sea bit. This is on a Lakeside Needlecraft printed fabric aquamarine, but it's a really nice sort of mottled. The colour is coming out really well actually on this. Right, now this is where I'm going to do the magic. I'm going to put this down here. I'm going to turn you off for a second so you don't get seasick while I move the thing, and join you again in a second. Okay, so I've joined you again. I was like, well, I could do the transition and then obviously get a really great view down my top while I'm moving the camera, so I think that's a good thing. So you can see we've got these lovely dark blue dragons. This is all the bit that Lizzie stitched with the little boat, and then we turn it around, maybe turn it around the other way, and this is the dragon that I've stitched. And I've done some fish, 3 fish and a little bit. So I've done a bit. I've got to do all this bit up here before I send it on. The dark blue is paint box thread silk, and the variegated greeny bluey grey is, I think it's Karen Water Lilies that Lizzie said. I think it's lovely. Now let me just show you. So hopefully you can see that quite well. Now this is where the magic really happens. Look, if I move it down and across, so it's now about 6 inches. I mean, look at that. Look at that. So you can really see a lot of detail. I think, let me just try a bit nearer. It's a little bit tricky when you get this near, getting it in the right space, but I mean, yeah. So this is, I'm not sure, 18 count, maybe 20 count, and just how clearly you can see that at that scale. So it's going to be brilliant. I think you'll see when I show you the silk sample that I've done in a little bit, seeing those really fine threads and the details of the work. So I'm very excited about the visualizer. So like I said, I've only stitched a little bit of this. It's fine, it's fine. A little bit of pressure because the third one in the round robin has already been sent to me by Lizzie, who has stitched, you know, is just going great guns on it. But this piece is not due to the next person until July, and then the third one September maybe. I think that's right. I just need to check that this isn't June. I don't think it is. I think it's July, and the next one maybe September, October, and then we're finishing by the end of the year. So it is supposed to be a nice relaxed schedule if you are not an overachiever, which right now I am not. Okay, I'm going to bring you up to face me. So anyway, so that's my Ink Circles Elemental Dragons. I'm really enjoying the round robin because the whole point of it is you don't have to stitch anything twice. And the other day I was just thinking, oh, it'll be so exciting because, you know, other people are stitching on mine. At the end of the year, it's going to feel like I've got a finished project that I've only stitched a quarter of, which is amazing. And you know, I'm getting to stitch on this is really fun, but also the one that I've got lined up next that came first, I have to remind myself I must do this one first, is one of the ink circles pieces that I've really wanted to do, which is the arranging things sewing one. So I think that's going to be super fun. It is smaller as well than this, which is one of the reasons I think Lizzie did it so quickly. So I'm afraid in the last, whatever it is, 4 or 5 weeks, that is all the cross stitching I've done. It's a bit pathetic. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to go back to the house and get the other bits and pieces, and then I'm going to show you some silk threads. So stay tuned. I foresee that going and getting things from the house and then taking them back and then leaving them and they'll always be in the wrong space is going to become a feature of my floss tubing. But I think this is going to be a good location. Yeah, sorry, you don't care if you can see my bra straps, do you? I don't care. I'm really enjoying the light in here at the moment. I mean, that may change at different times of the year, but I'm also quite enjoying the background. I might one day show you some stuff there. I don't really do cross stitching in here or hand stitching in here. I prefer to do that in the house where I've got the TV on and I can just pick it up for a few minutes here and there. Mostly this is where I do my dressmaking, but it's where I store almost all of my craft stuff that isn't cross stitching, mostly, apart from the yarn, which is under the bed at the moment, hiding. Okay, so silk threads. So you may remember seeing this absolutely beautiful box, which I now have to try and remember how I get it in front of the camera. Absolutely beautiful box, stitched for me and made for me and finished for me by the wonderful Sally of Flossie Sews and Grows. And it's so beautiful, and I was like, well, I must put something really special in there. So what I put in there is my silk threads. So I'm going to move you. I put all my silk threads in here. They were beautifully lined up. I'm going to put some dividers in so that I can keep them all neatly lined up. So you can see these are little tiny spools. Here I've got, so these are some that I bought at a haberdashery in Florence. I think it wants to, there we go. So these are from 2 different companies, but they're the same kind of thread. It was very exciting when the lady in the haberdashery started pulling out trays and trays and trays of this thread in different colours. I've got, what's this? This is my Soie which, let's find somewhere, there you go, Soie. That's from Avera Soie. And then I've also got in here some 103s. What's that? That's Soie. Those are 103s. That's one of those. Okay. So those are all my silks that are on spools, more or less. There's one that I put down somewhere when I was doing the samples a little while ago. And then I've also got some silks that are stranded silk threads that come on floss drops from various cards. Now, this is what I was using. Try this way around. On holiday. So it came like this, wrapped in these little bobbins with 2 colours on each bobbin, because we did not need whole spools. The spools that this is, and I'll tell you about what they are in a moment, they come with 80 metres of floss on there. We did not need 80 metres of floss. In fact, I've used everything I'm going to use of these colours, and you can see there's still a lot left on it. You can barely tell that I've actually used any, to be honest. And they're beautiful threads and they're really fine. And I was like, oh, I wonder what these are and whether one could use them for cross stitch. And so she told me, and I have ordered some. So they come from a company called Piper's Silk. I'll put the links in the description. They do a whole different kind of, you know, a whole range of different kinds of silk threads. And the one that this is comes in a really great range of colours. So I bought from them this, which is their Floss Silk Pack Bright. Let's see if we can get that. I don't really know which way is up and down at this point. There we go. The details are there, but I will put it in the thing below. They're a UK company. It came with 10 in the pack in beautiful colours. So obviously you can buy different packs that are not the brights, and you can also buy them as individual spools. I think they're about £2, I want to say £2.35 for a spool, and you know, less than £23.50 for all 10, maybe £20, something like that I paid for this. I'm going to talk a little bit later about evaluating value compared to cost with respect to silk threads, because it's not always that easy to compare. And in one sense, if you're only going to use a little bit, the cost is more important. But if you're going to, like if you're charting up for a huge great monochrome long dog sampler or something where you're going to need a lot of the length, then you really want to be looking at the value, the cost per metre of the floss. So anyway, so that's the Piper's silk, which is, like I say, silk floss. This is the Avera Soie 103. So 103 tells you about the thread itself. It's a 3-ply thread, and the 100 tells you what kind of weight it is. The Soie Fine, it's a finer thread than that. I don't know what the equivalent number would be. This thread, this is a very different sort of thread. This is much thicker. This is a 10 weight, which is, so sulky is a 12 weight. So the 10 weight means that this is a little bit heavier, thicker than sulky thread. And then I've got various stranded silks. This is a Belle Soie. So Belle Soie from Classic Colourworks, these are 12 strand threads. So like your 6 strand, you know, DMC or ordinary stranded cotton, but with 12 strands in there. So effectively, although that says 5 yards, it's kind of the equivalent of a 10-yard skein of DMC, because you've got 12 strands of it to use. This is Dinky Dye. This is 8 meters, and I think the Dinky Dyes was only 6 stranded. Let me just check that. I think that's right. Yeah, so that is only 6 stranded. So although that says it's got 8 meters, and you might think, well, this has got 5 yards. Yeah, you've got a lot more thread. So you've got effectively 60 yards if you're stitching with 1 strand, whereas here you've only got 40. So it's a big difference. And then I've also got, which I don't seem to have brought with me. Oh yes, I do. It's in here. Some NPI silk, which again is stranded, and this is stranded just with 8 strands. I mean, they don't make it easy for you to do the maths, honestly. This is 8 strands, and it is 5 meters. So again, that's 40 equivalent. So that is about equivalent to the Dinky Dyes, but put up in a different way. 8 strands, 5 meters. 6 strands, 8 meters. Is that what I said? Oh, yeah, 6 strands, 8 meters, and I just did the maths wrong. That's 48. So yeah, 40, 48, 60. I've also got, which I stitched with, but I don't really own. It's from the Ink Circles Round Robin, but I will just get the label just so you can see. The Karen Water Lilies is also 12 strands. I don't know how long this is because I've only got it on the bobbin, but that's also 12 strands, so that's the equivalent of the Belle Soie. So you can see if you're looking at stranded silk, you've got a lot of different options. But I will also just show you the other thing that we're using in the Dragons stitch along is paint box threads, and this is sort of equivalent to this kind of silk, or even the 103, in that it's a single strand, but this is labelled as 62. So where the 103 has got 3 strands to make its ply, really nice and smooth, this has only got 2, but it's a 60 weight, which means it overall is a lot lighter. I think that's right. I'm going to show you my stitched examples, and hopefully some of this will become a bit clearer. anyway, I'm loving my silk box, and I think Sally said she's got some extra of the fabric that she used for the lining, so I'm going to make little dividers hopefully to keep it all nice and separate. So here we go. This is what I was working on earlier. Okay, these are all my samples, so let me explain what we've got from top to bottom. At the top we've got the Piper's silk. Okay, the next one is a Soie, I think it's that one. I might not always get the exact colours out. Then we've got an Averis Soie 103. Then I've got this Italian one. Then we've got some of the paint box threads. Sorry, Lizzie, if you're watching, I stole about 6 inches of your threads for this. So those top 5 are all single strand threads. You would not split them, you just stitch them as they come. But they are quite different, and we'll talk about those in a minute. The bottom 4 are all the stranded cottons, alright? Stranded silks. So this Piper's floss, right, I'm going to bring you in as close as I possibly can. There we go. So this is 36 count vintage country mocha, although I'm stitching on the back, so it's not got the variegations in the thing. 4 scale, that's my finger. I have got, yeah, here we go, little tape measure here, just so you can see, because it's easy to forget just how tiny we are looking at. That's a centimetre, no, that is an inch. Okay, let's do it on the centimetre side. Okay, we've got both. Good, helpful. Right. Okay. That's a centimetre from 2 to 3. So it's pretty tiny we're looking at. Anyway, so the Piper's silk that I bought is called Silk Floss, and it doesn't come with a description of the weight that I can see. There might be on the website, I don't know. This little spool has 80 metres of it. That's quite a lot. It's quite a lot of thread. It's very shiny on the spool. And yeah, that's all it's got. It doesn't have no, it doesn't have a number. That just says 80 metres, and then this is Kelly green. I don't know if they have numbers for them on the website. I don't think so. But they have a good range of colours. So the ones we were using in Italy, I'll show you more later, much more muted colours than the ones I've chosen in the Bright Silk pack. I think if you wanted to kit up a whole project in these, you'd find you had a pretty good choice of colours to do that. Stitching with it, so this is 1 strand on 36 count. I think it's a reasonable coverage, particularly if you're stitching something, you know, a little bit prim. I think it's perfectly fine. I think it would be ideal for 40 count and probably 46 count. I don't know whether it would be fine enough for 56 count. I haven't tried it. Because this is not, so this is the thing that is different about this compared to all of the others. It is not a twisted thread. So by that I mean, here, these threads, let me get this one out of the way. These are just all silk filaments, all going in the same direction. They are not connected to each other, which means that when it's stitched on the fabric, it stitches very flat. It lies very flat and has a lovely, lovely sheen to it. It does also mean that it can get a bit fluffy. So you can see the end of that is quite fluffy. But because silk is very strong, you can kind of pull that when you're stitching and put it flat again, and it's fine. When people say silk is very strong, it is very strong. It's very strong for tensile strength. Like, you can pull quite a good weight on that. I was using this, like I say, on holiday. I never had an issue with it breaking. It's not strong for, I don't know what your word for this, but when it's being rubbed against. People are like, oh, it's really strong, I should use it for knitting socks with. No, you shouldn't. It will wear out really, really quickly. Anyway, so I think it would be fine for stitching, but what you would find is the surface and the piece that you stitched is quite vulnerable, and I really think it's only suitable for framed pieces as a result of that. You wouldn't want anything that's going to get any kind of wear rubbing against it. With the stranded silk, it mitigates against that a bit, but even then, you know, it's silk. Use it for special things, and those special things ideally that are not going to get any kind of wear from being rubbed, but particularly this, where it's not even stranded, not even twisted, to give it any extra strength at all. But it's nice. I really like stitching with it. I'd really like to do a cross stitch project with it. I think definitely when I try something on 46 count I'll use it. I might try and see how it works on 56 count. What I have used for 56 count, and I think is ideal, is Soie Fine. I've also got some non-silk Invisifil that somebody really kindly gave me at Stitch in London that I want to try for 56 count. It's super fine, and as I've stitched this on the 36 count, it's pretty sparse. It would be fine depending what you're stitching and what look you want to achieve, but it's not great coverage, and it's not really designed for. Again, better on 40 count, but really I would use this for 46 count or 56 count. I think Soie Fine is quite hard to find in the UK. Mine did not come from a UK shop, it came from a German shop, and they only had it in packs, so I bought a green pack and a pink pack, I think. I have yet to find somewhere that will ship at a reasonable cost to the UK individual spools, or you know, spools that you choose individually. I'm not saying I would buy one, but I might buy, you know, 8 or 10, but I want to choose which ones. Yeah, I have not yet found a source of that, which was why I was excited to find the Piper's Floss, because it is a UK company. The only thing I would say about it, the shipping is not quick. They're very upfront about that. It says on their website up to 21 days. Mine, I think, took 2 and a bit weeks. So if you're trying to kit up a project like now for tomorrow, you don't want to use that unless you've already got a whole stash of it. So it does take a little while to come, but I thought it's pretty reasonable price, and like I say, UK company, so you're not worrying about will you get customs or any of that nonsense. Okay, let's keep going. This is a Vera Soie 103. So that Soie Fine is also a Vera Soie. A Vera Soie is a company. They make a whole different range of things. Pipers make a range of different things as well. So this is 103. And like I say, that describes the weight of the thread and the kind of composition. So this is taking effectively 3 strands that would be like this one and twisting them together to ply them. And it makes a stronger thread, and it makes a sort of... I assume the Soie Fine is definitely a twisted silk. I don't know how many plies it's got. But 3 ply gives a really nice rounded shape to a thread. I think this is really nice coverage on 36 count. I think that's ideal. I know people use it on 40 count and are very happy with it. On 32, I guess it would be fine. But, you know, that sort of, if you like that sort of primitive look where it's very much the fabric showing through, it would be fine. On 32 count as well. So it comes in lots of colours. Again, not super cheap, but you know, not crazy. So let me just have a look. It was 80 metres of the Piper's silk on a spool for I think £2.35. Just having a look if I can see yardage. Yeah, 100 metres of the Soie Fine on that spool, and what have we got? 150 metres of the 103. So like I say, it depends quite a lot. If you're only ever going to stitch one really tiny project, the cost per spool is what matters to you. But if you're stitching large monochromatic pieces, just make sure you check how many meters per strand you're getting of each thing. Now, this, there were 2 brands of this, but it is the same thing. So let me just show you the 2 different brands. So this is Bozzolo Reale, Filato di Puresetta. So Puresetta, that's the pure silk. And I think Bozzolo Reale, it's either the company or the particular, you know, name of this thread. I mean, it might be Cucini Tre Stelle. Maybe that's the name of the country. Not sure. Anyway, Milano, Italy. And this is like I say, so I think it's 10 meters, and I think it is 10 weight, although I might have, I'm not sure. Yeah, I think so. This is also 10 meters. And then they've got things that tell you what colour number. 10 meters, number 3. That's the colour number. I think there's got a number 24 on the pink one and a number 3 on the green one. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, these are sort of the equivalent of pearl cotton. So if you're used to using a sulky, that's a kind of pearl cotton, 12 weight, Valdani, pearl cotton, that sort of thing. This would be the silk equivalent of that. So it's not stranded, you'd use it as a whole thread. I just love those colours. I'm not sure because I think the weight is wrong, but I did wonder if one of them might make it into my pear hill from the Artsy Housewife whenever I get there. We will see. And so this is that, the Bozzolo Reale, and it was definitely too big for stitching on 36 count. It was really hard work doing just those few stitches. 32 count I think would be great, 28 count I think would be great. And you can see there, it's just a lot thicker than any of the others. So going in thickness, I think the Soissons is the finest. The Piper's Floss, really not far off, but it's just, because the Soissons is rounded and the Piper's Floss tends to lie flat, it's hard to compare. But I think they're similar, with maybe the Soissons a little bit finer. Then the 103, then, you know, this pearl. I think it's maybe, well, I thought it was 10 weight, but now I'm wondering if it's 12 weight. Anyway, I should have got a sulky out to compare, but I didn't. I'm sorry. I don't know if you will be buying loads, but if you're in Florence, you know, you might. And then this is the Piper Silk, and this is a 62, and again, this is similar to the equivalent of a kind of pearl cotton, and you can kind of even see that, hopefully, in the threads there, the twist in the threads. 2-ply rather than 3-ply, so slightly less rounded, slightly more of the kind of rope effect to it, but obviously very fine. It's beautifully soft and lovely to stitch with, and again I think that's really nice on a 36 count. You probably could get away with it on a 32 and a 40, but I think I think that's a nice sweet spot for it on this 36. Yeah, so those are those, and then these are all stranded. Now all of the strandeds are basically the same. The one strand of each of those is approximately the same, and these are 4 different brands. Remember, this is Karen Water Lilies at the top, this is Belle Soir from Classic Colourworks, this is Dinky Dyes, and this is MPI. You can absolutely switch interchangeably between those in the way that you'd switch between a DMC and an Anchor and a Roxy Floss and whatever. You know, a strand is a strand is a strand. But remember, they come in really different put-ups. So you've got 8-ply, we've got 12-ply, we've got 6-ply. Just check when you're buying so you know how much you're going to get. But one strand of each of those, you know, it's essentially the same weight as one strand of stranded cotton. Really nice coverage on this 36. If you want to, you could do it on 32. You could definitely also do it on 40. Probably 46, but it would be pretty thick on 46. And I certainly don't think you could do it on 56. So, stitching with silk floss. Have you done it? Do you enjoy it? What silks do you like? What sort of projects do you think are worth stitching it with on silk? I have to say, unless you're the sort of person who's stitching in, you know, an enormous great Hands Across the Sea sampler every week, for me, cost isn't the primary motivation here. Now, everybody's budget is different and everybody's stitching priorities are different. I stitch a lot of smalls. I don't stitch large pieces very much. I don't stitch huge, great, large, you know, modern folk embroideries or long dogs or anything of that sort. So I'm not thinking, oh, I'm going to have to get miles and miles and miles of this. But I do like to stitch things that are functional. So I absolutely wouldn't use silk floss on anything that was going to be a pin cushion or that I was going to make into a box or a pencil case, or you know, just anything that's going to get any kind of wear and tear, I would not use silk for, because it will wear much more quickly than the cotton. It's interesting, Sally Flossie Sews and Goes was just talking in her YouTube this week about stitching with linen threads. I have some of those anchor linen threads, and I didn't get on with them at all. They break really easily. You know, they just wear a lot more quickly. So again, I would only use those for decorative objects. Rather than for anything functional. But I have to say, I'm really enjoying stitching the dragons. That's those 2 threads for the Ink Circles project. The paint box in particular I really like stitching with, although the Karen Water Lily is beautifully soft and variegated. So I have kitted up the whole of Pear Tree from the Artsy Housewife in silk threads, and I am going to start it in June. You heard it here first. Right, I'm going to bring you back to me. Right, so that's my silk thread. So let me show you now. We're going to go back down in a minute. I want to show you now what I was working on holiday that I was using these silk threads for. So it was a wonderful holiday, and in fact I'm going to show you this, and then I'm going to insert a little video that I took with Nadine, who with her husband Mark runs these holidays, because I think you would enjoy them too. Just saying. There we go. That is what I was working on my holidays. So Kate Barlow was our tutor. Kate is trained at the Royal School of Needlework. She famously was the first textile artist ever to have a piece accepted for the Royal Exhibition, Summer Exhibition at the Royal Academy. She did an amazing silk shaded picture of a budgie called Smuggler, which I really enjoyed. Budgie Smuggler. I loved it. So she was our tutor. You could choose from a range of designs and techniques that you wanted to work on. So there were 2 or 3 others doing the stalk with me. There were people doing crewel work, that's sort of wool based. There were people doing amazing things. In fact, I took some pictures, so I will perhaps include those while I'm talking to Nadine as well. So you can see her, but I'll maybe include some of the pictures of what people were doing at that point as well, so you can see the range of things. I chose this one partly because it was relatively small and I thought I might finish it within the week. I got close, I didn't finish it, and therefore it is still not finished. But also I really wanted to learn something new. So the colour work on here, which is what we did with the silk threads, is all techniques that I've used before. I mean, you know, it's good to be taught them by, you know, have someone around who really knows what they're doing with them, just to have a little refresher. But they, you know, that were not entirely new to me. The gold work, however, was pretty much entirely new to me. So everything here that's a little bit shiny, and I'll show you mine in a moment, is metal. It is not just metallic, it is metal. It is not actual gold, sadly, it is gilt. But learning how to use those. So this design is based on a pair of embroidered 17th century gauntlets. They are on display somewhere in London. I don't think it is the V&A. Anyway, someone had been to the exhibition and had a photo of the actual things, and she'd worked a design that was based on a little squirrel that was elsewhere in the embroidery, which was quite fun. So they, you know, this is not a rectangle. This is sort of deliberately that shape because of the shape of the glove. It's narrower at the bottom and so on. So we got lengthy instruction book, and then a lot of threads. Let me show you what was in the kit. So this is fun. This is the beeswax. So you have to use the beeswax when you're doing metalwork, because you don't want the metal to cut the threads, and the beeswax just protects your threads a bit more. Then we have various cards of the silk. So we had some greens, some blues, some pinks, a little bit of grey, not too much grey, and some gold coloured silk. So those are the silks, and like I say, they were used for all of the colour on the embroidery, which was a mix of long and short stitch and laid work and some stem stitch for the legs. I think that's it. Yeah. Okay, so those were there. Let's lay it all out nicely in a way that you can see. There we go. So beeswax, silk threads. Now, some of these have come out of their little bags, but I'm going to show you anyway. So this is number 8 bright check. So again, the 8 is the width of the thing. So this is the check, and it's called check because of the way this is made. Catches the light in different angles all the way down. It's essentially made by taking a thin piece of wire and wrapping it around a triangular prism, Toblerone. Mini Toblerone. So it's actually, I don't think you're going to be able to see this, but maybe. No, if you look at the cross section of it, let's see if it will. Just wants to focus on my fingers, sadly, which are of no interest to anyone because they're very normal shaped fingers, if a bit fat. Anyway, the cross section is triangular. Anyway, you can't see it. So it's bright and it's called check because it's got that sort of catching the angle all over the place. So they come in these tiny little packets, which she carefully works out so that you've got more than enough, but not silly amounts. Because, you know, they're not cheap threads when you're buying them in the kind of quantities that she is. Number 7, tambour thread. So this is made, you know, as a single thread. It's not got sort of the 3-dimension to it of the other one, and it's a relatively fine thread, and you would stitch with this in a normal sort of way, really. I'll show you what these are all used for when I show you the actual embroidery, so you can see the different range that we had. 1.5 gilt twist, that's this. So this is a twisted thread like we were just talking about with the silks, and maybe you can see the sort of rope effect that you get of the twisting those threads together. I don't know what the 1.5, I mean, it's to do with the weight and size of the thread. I don't know what it means, why 1.5 rather than something else, but anyway, so that's that. And you would couch that down. You don't stitch with it as a thread, you lie it on the surface of the fabric and couch it down, stitch it down with another thread. Those are our needles that she provided. Number 4 gilt passing thread. That's this one. Is that right, or is this a tambour thread? I think this is the passing thread. You know, it's 3 weeks on and I don't know what I remember anymore. I think that's right. And again, this is, I think this is also, oh no, I can't remember. Let me just read the book and just remind myself what we used all of these different things for. So, what have we had? Yes, so yeah, that's right. We couch this down as well. This is a lot of outlining happens with this one. So that's the passing thread. And then we also had 2 tiny little bags. 2mm spangles and 3mm spangles. There we go, I knew I'd just seen one of those. I put some of these on and I've still got some to do. I have a horrid feeling I've lost 1 or 2 of them. Anyway, so spangles, very similar to sequins, but not quite the same. They are not made by sort of punching them out of a sheet of plastic, which most sequins are, or even metal. They are made from a coil of wire, and then you cut the coil into circles and bash them down. So they're not perfectly round, and they are, yeah, they have a sort of unevenness which helps to catch the light even more. So that was all the materials that we used. Let me show you where I got to. So first of all, let me do this. Can you see how sparkly it is? It's very sparkly. So this is where all the different gold threads. So the gilt thread, that was the one that's the very ropey, that's round the outside here, stitched down. The passing thread, sort of single thread, slightly wider, is the outline, and it's the outline of the flowers, and then 2 strands of it to outline to make the stem. So you can see 1 strand around the flower, 2 strands down this stem, stitched down. It's all the way around the wings as well, and those little stems. The spangles that I've done here and for his eye, and what you do is you go up through the spangle into what they call a little chip, which I'll just show you. So the chips are the pearl. No, they are, yeah, it's bright check pearl, but I didn't say pearl on the thing. Which is the one that's like the triangular coil, and you cut that into tiny little lengths and stitch those on like beads. So effectively, on top of each spangle, you've got a little bead cut from that triangular wire. And then this whole area on the wing is filled in with those little cuts, little chips of that triangular wire. But you also use that for this. This is called cut work, where what you do is you cut a length of that wire to fit in your shape and stitch through the whole thing and stitch it down, and do that, building it up, as you can see in these kind of rows. The timbre thread, the finer thread, that is used over the wings here and here to hold those down. So you lay that over and couch it down on those. So what have I still got to do? Well, I've got to do a few more leaves, which will be in this same cut work. It is the most annoying thing to do, and also the middle of this flower. So the cut work, and then that's the central design done, and then round the edge there's a little bit more couching down of this thread, this passing thread, in a sort of zigzag with loops on the end, and then cut work in these little things. Let me just show you the cover picture again, so you can see I've got this round here. These are outline and then cut work. Oh, and I've forgotten there's spangles in the corners as well. So it won't be super long, but I haven't got around to doing it. So I'm going to do it when the first day when I get back, and then obviously I didn't. It's a bit more annoying doing it at home as well, because my magnifying lamp is not nearly as good as the ones that we were using in Italy, so I haven't got nearly such a good stitching setup for this kind of embroidery. It was fun though. I've not done this sort of really fine embroidery work for a long time. Maybe 7-8 years ago. I've done a few sort of 1-2 day courses at the Royal School of Needlework. I even did a sort of half-day workshop at Chester Cathedral with Kate Barlow a number of years ago, just doing a little silk shaded pansy. But I don't do it a lot. I don't want to do it a lot, but it's really nice to remember how to do it occasionally. You know, there were some people there whose work was incredible. There were some of the people on the holiday who were current and past students at the Royal School of Needlework, but there were plenty of us who were not, and I certainly didn't feel like I didn't fit within the group. There's one lady who'd never done embroidery before, only ever cross stitch, and she, you know, she wasn't working on something quite like this, but you know, she was doing a beautiful piece, and she made really great progress with it. So I'm going to just cut now to show you, just to let you hear a little bit from Nadine about what these holidays are and what they're like, and as I say, I'll show you some of the pictures that I took of the projects that other people were working on, and indeed Kate's own projects while we were there. Hi, so I'm sitting here with Nadine Roger. Nadine and her husband Mark run Creative Experiences. Creative Experience is quite a new business, isn't it, Nadine?
Yes, it is very new. We have started off this year running Creative Experiences, and this is our second class here in Tuscany, and so far so good. We're enjoying it, which is very good.
So
yes.
just tell us what sort of holidays you're offering, what sort of things people can do.
So we have specialized in craft holidays and craft retreats in embroidery, mainly lace making, textile art. We also have beading classes, and with embroidery being the wider subject of that.
Wonderful. And Creative Experience is new, but this is not your first rodeo with holidays or even craft holidays, is it?
No, it's not. Before the last 10 years, we have run the Alpine Experiences. So some of you might know us from that in the French Alps, where we have two beautiful chalets, and we run our embroidery classes there, overlooking the beautiful mountains. And in the winter time, we have had the ski and snowboard holidays under Book for Alps, which we have now closed because we do want to run our Creative Experiences all year round because we need more stitching time.
We certainly do. And so we're in Tuscany in Italy right now.
Mm-hmm.
Where else are the Creative Experiences holidays going to be?
So this year, as we start off this year, we have here in Tuscany in Italy, we go next week to Lucca. Throughout the summer, we will be in Les Carreaux in the French Alps. And in October, we will be near Barcelona, in Tarragona in Spain. Going forward, next year we had a look in Madeira, we will go to Paris. We also were looking at Istanbul, Marrakesh, Greece.
And the UK?
And the UK, of course. Yes, very important in the Cotswolds and hopefully in Scotland. We love Scotland. Yes. Yes.
Mark is from Scotland.
Yes.
Nadine is not, as you may be able to tell.
Probably you can hear my accent, yes.
And what would people expect if they went on a Creative Experiences holiday? Obviously, the craft and there's always tutors. What else would be the sort of characteristic features?
Well, we try to combine at Creative Experiences the holidays that you can feel comfortable from the time of when you touch down in the country. We will be there from the airport. We will be with you throughout the booking system and the booking time. And of course, doing excursions, doing a little bit things off the beaten track, wine tastings, classes in cooking, and also finding some artisans around the area where we are going to learn about a bit this area where we are in their crafts and so on. So we are trying very hard to find really good artisans, and it's just something different a little bit. We can go on many different holidays, but we do hope that we can combine a little bit the embroidery or the crafting with good tutoring, with good food, and with easy relaxation for all of you. And this is our aim and our goal.
So here we're staying, it's a lovely villa with rooms, and there's a beautiful gardens, beautiful views, a pool. What sort of accommodation? Is this the sort of thing people get everywhere?
Yeah, this is a bit of a different accommodation as it is a Tuscan villa, and there's a lot of stairs, so we do try our hardest to find some good accommodation which can also be disabled friendly.
Right. So here I think you would struggle if you were
yes,
in a wheelchair or something.
But... and so on. And it is a very family style. There's a pool in the end, you can play table tennis, and of course we have a big stitching room where we can good stitch.
And more or less we're the only people here.
And we're the only people, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, which is very nice.
But in some other places it won't be quite like that.
So for example, next week we will go to Lucca. We will stay in a 4-star hotel in Lucca, which is also very nice with a pool, but it is certainly, there will be also other people in the hotel. I hope so. That would be nice because it gives a bit of ambience. But here it's a little bit more private and a bit cocooned.
Yes. Good. And what would be your sort of dream Creative Experiences holiday for the future? What would you most love to be able to organise, Nadine?
But I would love to have a very nice retreat for all of you, which has never been done. I'm thinking about, I don't know, swimming in the Blue Lagoon in Iceland and then stitching in there, have a little
Sign
bit of
me up.
stitching.
Sign
and then
me
going
up.
to New York and stitch on the Empire State Building. I don't know, but there's the world has so much to offer.
Yeah.
And Mark and I, we think a bit outside the box. We're also a bit crazy sometimes. sometimes.
Yeah.
So I do hope that you do enjoy our retreats
And
coming
just
up. Yes.
so there's about 14 or 15 of us this week. Is that about the maximum size? Would you have bigger classes?
14 students will be the maximum.
Yeah.
Minimum around 8 to 9. We do like small groups,
Yeah.
because we do want to give you as much time with the tutor, as much time with everyone else to network and to be in a small group. Yes.
Wonderful. Well, so I did 2 with Alpine Experiences. Now, obviously, it's my
Yes.
first time with Creative Experiences, and I recommend it highly. Yeah, Nadine and Mark are just so good at looking after us all.
We try.
And they make it such an easy experience. So thank you very much.
You are welcome. Thank you so much, Rose, and all the best.
Where can people find you online?
So online we are on we have also a website under www.creativeexperiences.com. You can also find us on Instagram and on Facebook at Crafty Creative Experiences.
Perfect. I will put the links in the description.
I'm really excited, so please follow us, and also thank you so much, Ross, for having us.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Okay, so finally, I just want to show you some of the other things I have been doing. I've not been doing a lot. They've been more, things that I can just kind of do and be done rather than longer term projects. But it is our county show next week. If you are thinking US State Fair, think again. Much smaller. The list of categories for handicraft, about 6 or 7 classes maybe, and they're different every year, so you can't kind of plan in advance what to do. Anyway, I had a look in April and I was like, actually I really want to enter, because one of the categories was cross stitch, and if you enter 4 you get a free ticket for the show, which is really worth it. The last time I used my checkbook, it turns out, was in 2018, also for entering the county show, at which point it was still 50p per class. It's now gone up to £1, and I noticed that the prize money has not gone up similarly. But anyway, it's still the cheapest way to enter the county show. So the first thing I'm going to enter for the cross stitch is this. You've seen this before. This is my modern folk embroidery book that's going to be, it's not actually going to be a notebook, but I have put a notebook in to count it as a notebook cover. So it's got the holiday countdown sale on the back. It's got the with love chart on the front, stitched all in the same colour palette, with some personalisation. So when I was doing this one, it reminded me of the Song of Songs, so they put the verse in there, song 212, and I used the colours a bit differently as well. And this one, obviously I used the colours because it's only charted for 3 colours, and I put in a quote from the Song of Songs: Dodi li v'ani lo, I am my beloved's and he is mine. So that's my entry for the cross stitch category. This is my entry for the jewellery roll category. So I sort of based this on, I looked at various online sort of tutorials and things, and it's quite similar to a cross stitch stitching portfolio that I had stitched, but made to be a roll rather than a thing. So at the top it's got a little tag, and I put a thing in here, so you can either put, if your necklace has a fastener in it, you can put it through the tag, and if it doesn't, you can open the ring and put it there, and a little pocket to keep them in place. On this side it's a little flap so that you can put a pin or a brooch or something in there if you want to. You've also got 2 pockets here for bracelets. Keep going. So there's the pockets. This is your ring holder, so you can stick them on there and then velcro it down. And then this is one of the things I did see online that I thought was brilliant, was a piece of lace that you can hook earrings to. So you could either put ones with backs in the little bit, or ones that are just drop earrings in that. So I want to just get some really cheap rings and earrings, because I don't really have any. I have nice rings and earrings, but I'm not putting them on display at the county show, just to show those bits. And then it rolls up, and it's just got bias binding that you wrap into a nice bow. So I thought it was quite nice. It took an evening plus a little bit longer while I went and bought the right colour bias binding. I had some bias binding that I thought was going to be perfect for it, and then it was a super narrow kind, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not faffing around with that. It's got Bayani Soft and Stable in it, which gives it a nice sort of heft to that's my jewellery roll. I'm really struggling to hold things in the right place. I'm going to have to get used to this. And that is some fabric. It's Jules fabric that I bought from Hobbycraft 2 or 3 years ago when they were doing a sort of in-brand fabric thing. It's quilting fabric, really. And then the third candy craft category I'm also entering one of the cookery categories to make it up to 4. But the third one I'm entering is upcycle a piece of denim clothing. Now, I used to have a stash of old jeans in my sewing room, but I couldn't find them, so I had to go to the charity shop and buy some. And from one pair of old jeans, I have made a little luggage tag with some vinyl there and a little pocket where you can put your actual luggage tag in. There you go, there's my finger. Quilted on the back. These are, the ties are made from, are you going to focus? There we go. Some of the seams, so they're nice and sturdy. You know, it's not just kind of one width of fabric. That's nicely done, and you can see I kept the little stud on there. It is just stitched on, sort of behind the stud, and then I glued down the little flap there so that it's not flapping around. There's a lot of hot glue coming up. I did de-stitching mostly on this one. So luggage label, made a little pouch. I say pencil case, they've got to be quite small pencils. It's stuffed just with some of my scraps. I really only had like 2 handfuls of very tiny scraps left, but it's lined with the pocket lining, one of the pocket linings. I stitched the label from the back of the jeans onto the front of this, and on the other side it's got the bottom of one of the pockets. I'd used the rest of the pocket for something else, and by this point I really didn't have large amounts of fabric left, so it's a little bit wonky just because I was trying to make it out of different bits. I did add the zip for this. This is not the zip for the jeans because you'll see that in a minute. So luggage tag, little kind of mini pencil case pouch for other things. Bowl. I really like this. So I saw this online. I did quite a lot of googling for things made out of denim. This has got not a single, no, that's not true. I stitched the base. So the base, I took 2 circles of denim from the legs and put some of the soft and stable inside that, and so I did stitch that circle. Everything else is hot glued, and then I spent a large amount of time picking off the strands of hot glue. So these rounds again are made from seams that are rolled up and glued together. I didn't have quite enough seams. The example that I saw was a bigger bowl but had used like 10 pairs of jeans or something. I'm like, no, 1 pair of jeans. I'm going to see what we can upcycle. So some of it is just strips of fabric folded over and glued together, and then again the same thing for the bits which join those, and then glued on. And then I found there were quite big gaps between those circles, so I just stuffed in some extra little bits where there was some stitching, or something that was just going to give it a little bit of interest. And then on the inside I took some of the little scraps that I had left, again focusing on the ones that have sort of seams and stitching and bits and pieces, and I took some and just kind of filled in the inner edge at the bottom of the bowl to hopefully try and keep things in it, and then some just to fill up the bottom of the bowl there, and a little bit on the bottom. It's actually quite sturdy. I mean, obviously it's not for food use. I think it'd be really fun as an orc catcher, but you could store all sorts of little trinkets in there, keys, or whatever you feel like, really. So I was really pleased with that. Denim bowl, almost entirely hot glued. I know, I don't love hot glue, but for that it was the right thing. So we've got luggage tags, we've got a pencil case, we've got a bowl, and then we've got that's the other good thing about filming in here, is I've got a wheeled chair, so I can move forward and backward more easily as well. So it's a wall hanging organiser. It's got a hanging which is made from what was left of the waistband. On the back you can see I've used a large part of the waistband with the belt loops to just put this in to give it a bit of sturdy thing. And actually what I do want to do when I finish filming this, I'm going to just put a little bit of hot glue holding those belt loops in place, and indeed the strap in place as well, because they at the moment have a tendency to come. You can see I've used bits of fabric that were inside pockets, which are much less faded, and you know, this is just patched together on the back from bits that were left. And then on the front, again, it's got some soft and stable between the front and the back. So I've got the little pocket that was sort of inside the side pocket. So I like that with the kind of different colours. Here I've got just one of the ordinary back pockets, but I put some stitching in so that, you know, these are pockets where you'd keep pens and stuff in there. This is where I've got the fly. So the fly is there, and the fly has still got its zip that is still functional, if I can find it. But I've attached a sort of made pocket from some leg fabric to that, but it does work. You know, it's still, I kind of didn't want to take away from the jeansiness of it. So that's there. And then up here we've got obviously one of the side pockets. That's quite a shallow pocket, and inside there one of the back pockets, again quite shallow. The bottom of that pocket was in the pencil case. So I really like how that's come out actually. I like that you can really see it's come from a used pair of jeans. That is not denim fabric. I've sewn as much as I can. Obviously with the denim, by the time you've got a lot of layers, and because I wasn't unpicking a lot of stuff, I was trying to cut out spare fabric that I didn't need, but you've got a lot of layers, and because it's also still got some of the hardware in it, I couldn't stitch all of it. So it has then got bits like here, for instance, I sort of stitched up to about here, so it's held on properly with stitching, but I did just sort of glue down the flappy bits at the end. Yeah, this is my favourite, really, the recycled denim project. I really enjoyed seeing how many different things I could get that would be useful from one pair of jeans. So those are my county show projects. It's next week. I'll let you know how I get on. It's very unpredictable. You never know what they're going to take against on those. One other thing finally that I have made, this was a little challenge from art teacher while she was away for a few weeks. This came from a decorate your own rainbow kit. Hers were from Hobbycraft. I think you can find them online, probably in lots of other places as well. It's not expensive, and it comes in pieces which fit together to make a rainbow. And the challenge was to make something that wasn't a rainbow. And so I played around with pieces, and as soon as I arranged them into this spiral, I was like, that's what I want to make. That is what I want to make. It actually sits this way up. And I had in mind a slightly different look to it, but I actually found the MDF quite hard to work with. Found it quite hard to glue together, found it hard to keep it flat. I initially spray painted it, but the outside of it just didn't take the spray paint at all. So then I acrylic painted it, then I masked it, and the masking didn't really work. And so then I just had to go at it with my Posca pens. But I actually really like the end result, and it goes on my wall. So that's a fun thing if you're wondering what to do with your kids this half term. Get them a decorate your own rainbow kit. I found Gorilla Glue was the best thing in the end. I did try No More Nails, which was okay, but not quite strong enough to sort of hold the weight of the thing. So Gorilla Glue worked best in the end. Let them play with it. Well, somebody made an amazing kind of castle scene, and this was the bridges and the moats and all that sort of stuff. And somebody else made like a little fairy garden. It was so sweet, with little mushrooms in it and covered in moss, and sort of arranging the pieces stacked down to give like almost a cave that she made from it. So really fun thing to do. Right, my iPad is running out of battery and I can't plug it in while I am filming, so I just need to tell you very quickly, June Patreon. Thank you so much if you've been over to my Patreon. Thank you if you had a look at the free post. Thank you if you joined as a free member. Thank you so much if you joined as a paid member. I mean, that's really above and beyond. In June, there will be posts that are only available to paid members. It's all going to be more or less Italy themed. So coming up, there's a cross-stitch chart, which if you're a free member you will be able to purchase, but if you're a member at one of the higher tiers you will have for free. There's some deep dive into Italian stitching, Assisi work, and the two-sided Italian cross-stitch, and examples of Italian cross-stitch design and that kind of thing. There's a video which I need to edit today of, it's sort of my Italian holiday, and there will be things about that, but also one of the amazing things we got to do is go and see some of the Florentine artisan crafts, paper marbling and leatherwork, and especially Florentine marble, and so I was able to take some video and photos of those, so look forward to that. I feel like there's other things that I'm forgetting. I'm definitely planning just some polls which will be available to everybody to help work out what you might want to see in future. You know, for instance, do you do Christmas in July? Do you want to have some Christmas charts coming up in June or July? Those sorts of things, but other ideas as well. The advantage of being a yellow tier member, it's only $1 a month, is that you get to be part of the forums. I can't open them to free members, Patreon won't allow me, but if you want to be part of that, that's just $1 a month, so less than £1, and you can be part of the challenges and discussions and so on that are there. If you join for free in May, but you thought, no, I do want to increase to a higher tier, please don't do it until June. You know, you get no extra benefit for joining in May, so wait until June and then you'll get a whole month's worth of content for your month giving. I think that is everything. There is going to be more cross-stitching happening. I'm going to be trying to finish the Dragons ink circle piece. I want to get back to my Gecko Rouge for a week or two. I want to work on the Pear Hill project from Artsy Housewife, so hopefully the next time I see you there will be cross-stitching, and there may be other things as well. Oh, just to let you know as well, one of the things I plan to do is to put my normal Flosstube videos also on Patreon, where they will be free posts. So if you're watching this over on Patreon, just know there is a whole YouTube channel there that you can go and watch, and if you're watching it on YouTube, don't be shocked if other people say, oh, I saw that on Patreon. I'm not asking anyone to pay for Flosstube videos ever, anywhere, but I am going to link them on both places. You still watch it, I think, on YouTube. It's a bit like putting a link to it on Instagram. I don't think it's really any different from that, but it will be over there as well. So if you are over there, if you're watching this and you're on Patreon, hello Patreon, but mostly this is hello Flosstube. It wasn't very flossy. I'm sorry about that. See you next time.